don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay. Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay. Serious crap.
It's one of those things of I'm trying to make it so that I'm not, like, staring upwards all the time, trying to look forward more, but I guess I'll have my chin up high because I feel good about myself or some shit. I don't fucking know. Either way, this is a twofer. There's 2 videos. My other one that I'm going to release soon, I was playing Girls Frontline 2, talking about how I'm never touching Dragon Age the Veilguard again. I'm sorry. I know I was streaming it. I was trying. That's the thing, man. I've been trying to force myself to play that game again, but it's so bad that it's literally making me not want to play other games. Like, it just puts me in a mood of pure anger and hate, I guess, is the only way to say it. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but it just puts me in, like, what's the word? There's a specific word for it. I can't remember what it is, but either way, it's just a thing of, like, I'll touch Dragon Age the Veilguard, and then I'll play a good game, like Stalker 2, and while I'm playing Stalker 2, I just can't stop thinking of every little irritation. And that's the thing, that's a good-ass game, that's a really fun game, but it's one of those things of, like, Dragon Age the Veilguard just puts me so focused on, like, all the things that upset me and makes it so that's all I can think about. Like, that's what playing that game is like. It's one of those things of just finding problems, and you want to stop thinking about the problems, but then there are more problems, and you can't stop thinking about them because they just keep piling up. And it's becoming a thing of when I play other games, even when there aren't, like, a shitload of problems, those small problems that are there start bothering me so much it's all I can think about. So for my own sanity and ability to play other video games, I'm never playing that piece of shit again. I've already uninstalled it. I will not, I'm sorry, I am not going to stream the rest of that game. I can't do it. You know, I heard that you can kill that one character that is a fucking, you know, communist liberal that just fucking bitches and whines constantly and always has to talk about their sexuality because everyone gives a shit about their fetish, you know? Like, it's one of those things, like, when I introduce myself to people, it's like, hi, I have a fucking 6-inch penis, and I love fucking bitches, and I'm bisexual, so sometimes I swing the other way, too. What about you? You know? That's exactly how I introduce myself to people, you fucking weirdo. That's the thing, these fucking people are so weird and sexually deviant. Like, they love to say people who want sexual characters that look good in their games are, like, porn addicts and all this other stuff, but meanwhile, these people turn X-Men comics into giant orgies, which is usually reserved for Reddit. I'm going on a tangent here. Let's get back on topic. This is supposed to be about the news here, right? So, speaking of, like, what's going on in the fucking news, you know, Biden seems hell-bent on trying to trigger nuclear war in World War III way before Trump gets into office. I mean, I don't know what the fuck the plan is there. We've given so many missiles and other things to Ukraine. We're kind of underprepared for it now. But hey, you know, that strategic oil reserve that would have helped us during that war is also gone. So, you know, it's going to be fun that if we go into World War III, gas stations won't have any fucking gas because they have to send it to the front lines of the war because dipshit decided to fuck our oil like they did in Venezuela, send our economy into a spiral, like same as happened in Venezuela when they destroyed their oil. You know, I'm just saying, pointing things out here that I think, you know, should be pointed out. Another thing is, these people love calling everyone Nazis. Like, their favorite buzz term for anyone who doesn't agree with them are bigots and Nazis. And they also love to call people racist. But, you know, as we're seeing with the game Avowed that's about to come out, they're championing racism. They're championing 50s style racism that they originally used against black people and was created by Democrats. If you don't know your American history, look that shit up. Originally, Democrats did this in the 40s and 50s, but they did it to black people, not white people. They've just flipped the script on which race they want to be racist towards this time. It's hilarious how these people love projecting everything they are. I want to get this clear before we go on to what we're going to watch here, but I want to point out just how much these people love projecting what they are onto everyone else. They specifically refuse to hire white people at jobs, which they used to do to black people in the 50s and 40s. That used to be the exact same racism they used against black people in the 50s and 40s. They keep trying to say that segregation would be great. We need classrooms that are only blacks and only whites. Do you remember who brought... Again, go back to your American history. Do you remember who wanted and created segregation in America? It wasn't the Republicans, my friends. It was the Democrats. They were the ones who didn't want... As Joe Biden said himself, he doesn't want his schools turning into racial jungles. Again, it was the Democrats that created that racist shit. I just want to point that out. Now let's get on to the topic of them calling everyone Nazis. Well, last I checked, it wasn't the Republicans that gathered in mass calling for the genocide of the same people the Nazis wanted to kill. It wasn't the Republicans that gathered in mass and would attack them at colleges and on the streets while chanting for their deaths, like the Nazis did. Huh, isn't that funny? You call people Nazis, but, you know, you act exactly like the fucking people my grandfather was killing during World War II. It's one of those things of, you know, I love being Democrats' worst nightmares. I'm black, I'm bisexual, and I'm not a fucking dipshit Democrat. So they hate me. They love calling me the hard N-word followed by race traitor. And you know what's funny? In the in the 8 years since Trump's first term, I haven't been called the N-word by anyone except white and black Democrats. In this total of 8 years, I have only experienced racism from Democrats. It's hilarious. These people love to project everything they are onto everyone else. Like how they wanted to call Trump a dictator and a communist and all this shit. Who are the people trying to force behaviors in workplaces and now trying to force these behaviors by forcing it into all of their products, entertainment, and everything else onto their customers? Because last I checked, that's extremely communist and comes straight out of every third world country. That's how dictators normally do it. It's just normally a thing of if you don't follow along, you end up in a prison camp. Which puts me on my next subject of how many Democrats were championing making, re-education camps. How many Democrats were saying that they should do re-education camps? And if you know your history about World War II, how did that work out for the Nazis? Well, originally the Nazis said that they wanted re-education camps for their political prisoners. Ruh-roh, turns out, rounding up millions and millions of people, you don't have enough prisons for them. So they just started having their soldiers shoot them and bury them in mass graves. Ruh-roh again, turns out having soldiers murdering thousands upon thousands of innocent civilians makes them go crazy and eventually commit suicide. Hey, you know that pesticide we've been using on our plants and everything? What if we just rounded them up into chambers and used that? If you don't know your fucking history, learn it, because that's how that happened. It's hilarious. These people love projecting everything that they are. But let's move on, let's get to this little bit of, this. I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is just something about what's going on in Canada, because, if you're one of these people that lives in a bubble within America and doesn't pay attention to what's going on in the rest of the world, if you've woken up to what's happening in your country, I'm proud of you. Good job. That's amazing. You need to start waking up to the rest of the Western world, and how these policies, laws, and all this communist shit isn't just happening here. It started from the WEF in Germany and has gone from there across the entire West. It's one of those things of when one country does something, the next one does it, and the next one does it, and so goes down the line through all members of NATO, the UK, the UN, pretty much all Western countries. So let's go ahead and dive on in.
I warned you. They're going to take our guns away before World War III starts, and they're going to put them in the hands of the poor schmucks that are being hauled off the street.
Again, I want to clarify, this is happening in Canada right now. They're not taking our guns away in the U.S. Good luck trying to do that.
It's against their will to go and fight and die for some bullshit. Even the Ukrainian politicians are fleeing the sinking ship. They're leaving, going to the UK, to the United States. These people who have committed hundreds of thousands of men to die or be casualties of war are now fleeing. And now the Canadian government has the gall, has the audacity to infringe upon the individual rights and freedom. Oh yeah, we don't have rights. We have privileges here in the Crown. Privileges of...
Yeah, clarify. He clarified it, but I want to also clarify that in Canada, they're trying to make it a standard that you don't have rights or freedoms. You have privileges. Now, doesn't that sound like something every dictator, third world shithole tells their peasants as they take everything from them? It's one of those things of, again, people, we need to pay attention to the entire West. And, normally, I used to be one of those people who was like, nuclear bombs are one of those things that should never be used. But I wouldn't bat a single eye if Russia nuked Germany and completely took out that country. I'm just, again, you can hate me and be mad all you want if you're German, but I'm sorry, after the Nazis and the World Economic Forum, it's blatantly obvious that that country is just hell-bent on human rights abuses, full-on global communism, and pretty much slavery of peasant life. I'm just saying, at this point, after the WEF and my family fighting in World War II, I wouldn't care. Honestly, I'd probably celebrate if Germany got wiped off the map, because we probably would never have to deal with some shit like this, where Germany wants to do some crazy take over the world through communist shit again. I'm just saying, bro. And if you don't think that's bad, you should really look into the CDC's documents that they did through the U.S. government for their concentration camps that they had planned out, which they were going to call quarantine camps. Again, you can look this information up. I won't go into it because YouTube doesn't like when you talk about those things. Again, it's all documented through the U.S. government and the CDC. They did want to put people in concentration camps. But again, remember, the Democrats love projecting that everyone else is Nazis while they call for the genocide of the Jewish population and wanted to actually make concentration camps during COVID lockdowns. Just remember, they're projecting everything. I'm just saying.
Of the Crown by royal decree of Sir Fuckface Justin Trudeau. They want to take away our guns. Get this. Get a load of this. They just banned damn near all semi-automatic rifles, and they're going to send them to Ukraine.
You hear that? You hear that? Now, another massive part of communism is redistribution of wealth. Whether it be money, resources, goods. Either way, socialists and communists take over a country, and then they redistribute all of the money and resources to their friends, which we're seeing happening with Ukraine, which usually, at the end of the day, gets funneled back into a lot of these politicians' pockets and the military-industrial complex, let alone BlackRock and Vanguard. You know, the people who are now ruining video games, entertainment, jobs, and want to force behaviors. Just saying, it's one of these things of this is communism, this is socialism, this is the shit that people were being called conspiracy theorists for 4 years ago. Remember when we were saying they wanted to take your guns? Well, we won the battle and kept them from doing it in the US. Canada, obviously, seems to have too many citizens that are willing to just roll over and give up.
If those guns, few of them, of course, because they don't even use the same calibers, they're likely not even going to find any use for these.
Oh, I should also clarify this if you don't actually know anything about weapons when it comes to semi-automatic rifles and pistols versus fully automatic ones. Semi-automatic weapons are actually made from a lower caliber of metal than fully automatic. A semi-automatic weapon, if taken into a war zone, will actually break. More than likely, the barrel will overheat, melt, and bend slightly, which will cause the bullet to lodge and blow up the gun in your face. That's something that you need to understand if you use firearms. I go to the range, so yeah, there are times where that's the thing, I take multiple guns when I go to the range, because yeah, when my barrel starts to get too hot, I have to put one rifle down, let it cool off, and shoot another one, because I don't want to melt my barrel. Versus a fully automatic rifle, which can put down hundreds to hundreds and hundreds of rounds without having that issue. You know, just so whenever these Democrats like to say, oh, we don't want people having weapons of war, you tell me if you can give me one example of a war fought overseas by U.S. troops where they used AR-15s only semi-automatic, then we have an argument there that you can actually use against me. Until you can point that out, because I'm not able to find it anywhere. That didn't even happen during Vietnam, if that rifle even existed at that time. But hey, it's one of those things of, again, there's a reason why they don't take semi-automatic weapons that they make for civilians into battlefields. They are not made for that level of usage. They will break and explode in your face if your barrel doesn't end up melting and falling over first. Hopefully, your barrel will melt noticeably before you put another round through and blow up your fucking face and hands. But it's one of those things of giving these weapons to the Ukrainians is going to get a lot of people killed. Not because they're shooting guns at people, but because eventually these guns are going to explode in their faces. I need to take a second, too, because let that set the standard for these politicians making gun laws like this. Justin Trudeau knows so little about guns. He's about to send a bunch of semi-automatic weapons into an actual war zone, expecting them not to overheat and break down and explode in these people's faces. You know, if he had, like, the smallest inkling, like, goddamn, thank Christ I'm from a military and police family and learned about this shit. Because, God, these politicians are just so fucking ignorant, but they think they know so much better than everyone else.
Firearms that are semi-auto, they're not full auto, some of them can be converted, but, you know, They're not even going to use them anyways.
If you want to, go ahead and look at what, like, at any time. I've done it before too. If you want to right now, go ahead and watch what happens to a semi-automatic weapon when it's converted to fully automatic and has several hundred rounds pumped through it. Just go ahead and YouTube that if you want to right now. You can come back or do it after, I don't care.
Are likely going to fall into the hands of the constituents of a failed democracy, one that's under martial law, one in which the...
Oh yeah, I forgot. Wasn't it like 4 or 5 months ago that Zelensky was supposed to have stepped down because they were he originally, when the elections were supposed to be held, he postponed them, and then months later he was supposed to step down because the law stated that, you know, you can only hold that time for a specific amount, and he still has yet to step down. Like, that's what I find hilarious about Ukraine. Ukraine currently is a dictatorship with no freedom. Why the fuck are we supposed to give a shit about some fucking dictatorship where some communist tyrant is literally killing his people by forcing them into war? I'm just being honest. You don't have to like me or what I'm saying. The truth is the truth at the end of the fucking day. That's what it is.
Election has been suspended. You have absolutely no rights whatsoever. At the stroke of a pen, they can effectively haul your ass off the street and send you into the meat grinder. That is what we are having our rights eroded in support of. And the spearhead, the ideological, radicalized Azov, Banderite, Nazi fucks who are over there, who we are not allowed to criticize.
The Azov Battalion's logo uses the same logo. It's a little bit altered, but the logo that they use for the Azov Battalion is the logo that the SS Nazi Battalion used to use. Boris Johnson, I believe his name was, proudly held up the SS Nazi flag with the Azov Battalion's logo. I mean, it was the Azov Battalion flag, but it had the SS Nazi logo on it. He proudly held it up while hanging out with them at his parliament. That was the third time that the Western governments celebrated Nazis, if I'm correct, in the past 4 years, inside their governments. Like when Canada brought in an actual ex-SS Nazi member and celebrated him as an old World War II hero apparently without doing any knowledge or looking into the guy, because he was a horrible Nazi who committed atrocities against many people. But they still celebrated and cheered for him like he was, and called him a war hero from World War II. Yeah, it turns out he was an SS Nazi who did a lot of war crimes and human atrocities. But, you know, only a few people from their parliament actually acknowledged that.
It's for some reason, but we give them standing ovations. Mr. Blackface loves giving standing ovations to Nazis in the parliament. Isn't that something? Now they're going to send our firearms over there. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I am absolutely livid, as you can see. And this is the problem with most Canadians. And this is why they're going to take it all away. Because there's no red blood pumping in the bodies of Canadian citizens.
You know, I was about to say that. This is literally on you, Canada. If you don't fucking decide to, you know, put the foot down here and fight for your guns, it's your own fault at this point. You know, there's a reason that they aren't gonna take... That's the thing. Have you seen how gun programs where they try to take them from people have worked in states? Nobody gives them up, and nobody's willing to. In fact, when they do gun buybacks, most people make a shitload of makeshift guns in their fucking garage and sell them to the fucking government. Yes, you can do that. If you ever have a gun buyback program going on in your city, if you have the knowledge to make a makeshift firearm, even if it can only shoot one bullet and has to be reloaded, you can sell those to that buyback program and make as much money as many guns as you can craft.
Unfortunately, we are obedient, we are compliant, and even the guys who are in the know, even the people who advocate for more firearms rights, lots of them are just pushovers. They're far too stoic. You have to get a little upset. Now, I want to say, I will defer to the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights for any guidance on how we can mitigate this issue through the appropriate political and legal channels. I am certainly, as you can see, not the guy to talk to about that. I'm here to vent. I'm here to say what we're all thinking right now. This is fucking bullshit. It's bullshit because we're supposed to be a democracy. And we're supposed to be supporting what is being painted as a bastion, a bulwark for democracy in Eastern Europe, even though it's everything but that.
I was about to say, I never thought Canada was a democracy. I thought, isn't Canada a country that if, like, I always seen Canada as something that, like, if their fucking prime minister wanted to, they could just go full-on dictator and change everything. I don't know. I don't know Canada law that well, but, you know, the fact that he could just ban guns like that and it's over and done with, you know. I've always seen Canada as a country that could do that.
It is a government that by some accounts is illegitimate. I mean, not only have they postponed elections, but they've been under martial law for 3 years. You effectively have no rights. And this democracy that we are a part of, where we forfeit our rights and freedoms, law-abiding.
He was talking about Ukraine with the 3 years of martial law and no elections. Yeah, again, Ukraine is a dictatorship now because of the U.S.
People who get 24/7 background checks, people who are typically, I would surmise, are in the higher income tax brackets, who pay these bureaucratic, useless fucks wages. Okay? It is us who they single out. Why? Well, if we're heading into a world war, so these guys can go and start nuclear war with Russia? If we were heading into a world war, why would you disarm your population when you have no military? It's completely eviscerated, and now you just have a population of compliant dummies who are completely helpless to an invading force.
Because you expect us Americans to come and fucking help your stupid asses. It's gonna be our fucking job to do that fucking shite. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think we should just leave them. To be honest, I think we should just border off Canada. Because a lot of terror, that's the thing, and ever since Texas and the southern border got serious, the illegal invaders have started flowing through Canada. And I'm at the point of maybe we should just wall them off. And, you know, if you really don't want a military and you don't want your citizens to be armed, don't come bitching to us when problems happen. That's all I gotta say at this point, because I know for a fact they're gonna want us to deal with all that.
This is stupid. I have to say that I do not, absolutely not speak on behalf of the CCFR. I want to make that abundantly clear. While we've done collaborations in the past and while I'm friends with some of the members, I absolutely do not. I speak for myself and myself only. Let YouTube deal with me. Bill C-18. YouTube and all the big social media agencies were against it, okay? To YouTube's credit, they were all against it. What it means is that the Canadian government dictates what shows up in the search results here on YouTube. So that means if you go and search Canadian gun ban, guess what?
Yeah, you should really look into how Canada has pretty much turned their internet into China. It's pretty much the same standards of China. It's hilarious. These Democrats want to live under pretty much Chinese law when they could literally move to China at any fucking time. The only issue is America gives them too much freedom and good shit, and they're too up their own ass to admit that they love this country and everything that they get from it. But meanwhile, they keep trying to bring Chinese law here when they can literally move. I say that, we should start, like, with this whole deportation effort that Trump's gonna do, we should also probably start deporting these anti-American shitheads. At least, not forever, but we should give them at least, I say, 5 years. 5 years where you're forced to live in an actual communist country with all the shit that you wanted to bring here. 5 years in, like, China or Brazil, maybe Venezuela. Then again, I hear Venezuela and Brazil, the crime rates and everything, even the gang shit is way down because all of those people came here now. So it might not be as bad as it used to be, but it's pretty poor. So, maybe just China. 5 years deportation to China, and then they can come back after those 5 years. Just so they get an understanding, because, our politicians love to praise and act like China is amazing. You can, again, I've looked into it. It's fucking horrid for the citizens. Like, if you're not somebody who's a slave to the Chinese social credit system, living a life you don't want to live just to get the good points, so your life isn't miserable, you're living in complete trash and squalor from what I've seen. In fact, China is a very, very, very poor country where most people live in the dirt. And that's one of the things China tries to hide from the rest of the world completely, but it's people that go there and actually report on it that show these things. Again, you gotta look into independent news people to actually get videos and see what China is actually like outside of the nicer locations,
What you see first, a bunch of corporate, conglomerate, news agency, narrative, pro-Ukraine, anti-gun bullshit. That's what you see for the first 5 or 6 pages. To get an independent rant like this, you gotta search for it, baby. Or you gotta be subscribed. That's what they want. So they passed Bill C-18 last year, which effectively allows them to do this. And then this year, they come along with this bullshit. And at the stroke of the pen, they are able to, by decree, just outlaw all of the firearms that are unfit for the common folk. And here we are. We just accept it.
All firearms unfit for the common folk. In other words, we don't want the peasants to have the ability to fight back against the dictator. It's the same in every third world country. I'm gonna leave it there, though, because I've got a girl coming over and I've got stuff to do. Well, definitely got a few things to do, but she's gonna be here soon, so I don't have too much longer. I wanted to, I've been pretty busy. Again, Dragon Age the Veilguard, man, has really turned me off when it comes to video games, so I kind of went on a hiatus from, like, almost everything that's not a mobile game. So I got this, and there's a rant about Dragon Age the Veilguard and some other stuff when I did that I'm gonna post up at some point when while playing Girls Frontline 2. If you don't know what Girls Frontline 2 is, think XCOM, but with anime girls. It's literally XCOM with anime girls. And I've been wanting XCOM on mobile for so many goddamn years, it's not even funny, and this is just 10 times better than normal XCOM, at least for me, because it's anime, you know? It's one of those things of out of all the anime gun games we have, the best ones are Snowbreak, Nike, and I would say Girls Frontline 2. I was never a big fan of the first one because wasn't it like mostly chibi characters and shit, you know? That was what turned me off the most. The new one is like full 3D. It's literally XCOM. If you know what XCOM is, then you know what you're getting into. I'm gonna fuck off now.